Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. This time out we have another news update about the Avatar soundtrack. You've probably seen something like this before, but the difference is that this time it's the first tease hint of the soundtrack post the announcement of Avatar Studios. So a hint at this stage, with that in mind, means a lot more. So let's get into it. Let's sort of go through a bit like sort of the history of Jeremy Zuckerman teasing the soundtrack from recent times. So back in February 2020, he said this in terms of someone asking about the remaining Korra soundtracks. Obviously remaining because we did get the Korra Book 1 soundtrack released, but they didn't do any of the other ones. So he said to that, let me just say this, it's looking good. And obviously this is a year and 2 months ago that he said this. And there's been no official news about the other Korra soundtracks yet. So, you know, that seems like a very, very positive update. It's looking good, but nothing happened after quite a good amount of time. December 2020, someone asking about the official soundtrack album for ATLA, given that the Blu-ray got announced. Stay tuned, ... Not a lot of words there, but very much something will happen type thing. And that was only 4 months ago. So, again, since then, have we heard anything? No. But Avatar Studios did happen. And then the new update, just from 3 days ago, someone asked, you know, is the ATLA soundtrack available anywhere without the sound effects and voice acting? So, is the soundtrack up anywhere? Thanks, unfortunately not, but hopefully eventually. And then in brackets, not too long from now, ... Another one very in line with stay tuned, as if he sort of knows something, some sort of news is going to happen, that it's finally potentially been confirmed or something like that. It's a very interesting one in that, you know, he knows at this point, because of those other tweets which have gotten a little bit of traction, that, you know, when he says something, people are going to latch onto it. And you can see, you know, the person he responded to is like, oh, it's finally happening, and everyone's like, you know, really, really excited about it, and so on. But because of Avatar Studios, suddenly it's more than just Jeremy Zuckerman on his own against Nickelodeon trying to make the soundtrack happen. It's now, no, Nickelodeon are all for Avatar, Viacom all for Avatar. Avatar Studios was one of the big Paramount Plus announcements for the Viacom company, basically. So it shouldn't be a problem at this point for the anything getting in the way of the soundtrack happening. And the last 2 updates from him have seemed to suggest that, you know, in not too long from now, we'll hear something or get an announcement. That's what this feels like. It's no longer a case of, like, if the soundtracks will get released, but rather when and what is the exact way they're going to do it. Because everyone wants ATLA, but everyone also wants the Korra soundtracks. The difference, of course, is that more work is probably going to have to be done for the Avatar soundtracks to make that happen. And this adds on to Korra News did a interview with Jeremy Zuckerman back in February. So I think this was like just before Avatar Studios got announced, if I remember correctly. And one of the questions that was asked was, you know, so about releasing the soundtrack. And he talks about sort of similar stuff that the fans have always talked about. You know, I can say that for the first time ever, it's seeming really good. Different people at Nickelodeon now that really understand the value of Avatar. He talks about, you know, Avatar and Korra not being typical Nickelodeon programming, which I think helps to explain a lot of the lack of merchandise, lack of support behind the scenes during Korra's run and in like the initial kind of years afterwards. But things have sort of changed now, people understand it better, and again, Avatar Studios is a clear sign that they are committing to Avatar. So the soundtrack happening doesn't seem like too big of a stretch after everything that has happened. And yeah, he talks about the new people here that have a huge love for the show. He thinks it can happen now. It's just a matter of doing the work, a lot of work, to rebuild those sessions I haven't opened in 10 years. 15 years for some of them. Different software, different computers, finding missing files, and deciding how much to improve, how much to leave. And he says that some of that stuff is great with the show, but doesn't really stand on its own so much. So, you know, some of the soundtrack stuff is meant to more just be underlying background music, maybe make something more out of that in a release. So, you know, he's really thinking about it, and obviously he's had a few years to think about this, because I looked back on my channel and I did an update, I think in 2018, where he also sort of teased the soundtrack and was like getting people's feedback on what tracks do you really like from Avatar and Korra, and so on. So, you know, he's been thinking about this for a while. He has to know the stuff that the fans really, really want to see, and then he has his own views on things. So here's where it's talked about the whole, you know, Avatar YouTube channel. They were going to like officially release the soundtrack, even though everything pointed to that probably just being their own like official re-upload of the soundtrack collections that you can already find on YouTube. So he does reveal here that he was the one who actually put a stop to it. It's not how we want this stuff to come out. So, you know, it's showing that he wants this to happen, but he wants it to happen in the right way. He doesn't want it to just be a simple case of like, here's all my files I have, put them on a disc, release it, that type of thing. He actually wants to put the work in to make it special. And waiting for a long time, we want it to be a special thing, maybe an object, something physical. Remixed, remastered, and sounding good, not just stems from the show that were essentially meant to be sitting under dialogue. So, yeah, that's the thing. You know, digitally as well, but the physical thing, because this should be a special release. So yeah, we'll go back to this. You know, how much do you read into this or not? Especially after, like I said, we've had, you know, this one from like a year and a few months ago is probably the most positive. Like, oh, it's looking good, it's gonna happen. We didn't see anything. Stay tuned is like, oh, it's about to happen. And this one, it's kind of like the mix of hopefully eventually, as in like it hasn't been confirmed, but then in brackets this feeling like not too long from now it'll actually be confirmed. So it's just the tightrope, I guess, he has to walk, in terms of he knows everything he officially says about the soundtrack is going to be taken super, super seriously. So he has to be very vague about it. The impression I get is that probably, based on how detailed he kind of was here only like a month or two ago, the fact that this was said back in December and this back in February, he probably has been doing quite a bit of work on the soundtrack. And it probably has been behind the scenes confirmed that it is going to happen for maybe a while now. And what he is waiting for here is the announcement. And we know from a marketing point of view that these things often take ages to get announced. That's just the way it is. That they talk about stuff, and, you know, people aren't allowed to talk about these official projects for like months and months, and sometimes even like a year. So we'll see what exactly happens in this case, because like we are waiting for just kind of a lot of stuff, like Korra comics outside of the Suki Alone comic, which is coming up shortly. Korra comics just seem like they're on pause for now. We don't have a clue what's happening. Same with ATLA comics. We're so quickly going to approach the time where like, could you announce what's next for them? The novels, again, we've had hints that maybe there are more novels coming, but we haven't heard the details yet. We're, of course, waiting for the first proper big actual news from Avatar Studios about confirming what the actual projects are. And in addition to that, just like officially, what are the communication channels for Avatar Studios? Are they going to have their own social media accounts that they can activate and give first-hand information directly to the fans? Or are the social media accounts that already exist going to be sort of transformed into something different? Because you have stuff like the Avatar YouTube channel, which is taken off, like it's super popular. all they tend to do is just post like every clip compilation you could possibly imagine with like different titles and stuff like that. They probably have like the entire show across their videos up scene by scene like multiple times if you add all their videos together. Is that going to be a place we potentially get news from? Are they going to have to turn that into sort of the Avatar Studios YouTube channel, or what? It's that sort of thing that we're waiting for, because we're still sort of in that zone at the moment where everything is we're waiting for like an IGN, a Comic Book Resources or something like that to be the place that gets these big announcements, when it would mean just as much coming straight from Avatar Studios official announcement. Here is the soundtrack that we've been working on for the last while. It's going to come out here. Here's the release details. And that's the excitement. Like, this is the, if this finally gets confirmed and we see the news, it's happening. That's massive news. Like, massive, massive news. They know, we know, it's a big deal to finally get the soundtracks. And I hope it happens and we're not left waiting too much longer. Just so the pressure can be off Jeremy Zuckerman, because everyone asks about it, because it's everyone's so passionate about it, and it's just frustrating as a fan, and I suppose it's frustrating for him to always have to be like this, so vague, like leaning towards positivity but never full confirmation. And then when I do these videos, it's kind of like always feeling like this is just a hint, it's just a hint, it's just a tease. This is not the full confirmation it's happening yet. But after all the time, all the build-up, this kind of has to be it, doesn't it? Surely it is now finally confirmed, I think. Obviously, I'm not going to title the video that way, just because this isn't direct confirmation. But with everything surrounding this, it has to be it. Like, what he talks about here, the gradual teases of it, it has to happen. So there's that. Finally, just I suppose a quick update on the channel. Obviously on Saturday, just went by a few days ago, I did my first live stream. The video on demand of it is up on the channel if you want to check it out. There'll be a link in the description to it if you want. It's the video where me and the chat, we formed the top 10 waterbenders and top 10 airbenders list. As my first stream, like, I thought it went pretty well. Obviously I have to get used to doing it in that way, in terms of just there's so much information that I have to keep in mind in terms of like my streaming software, in terms of what I'm actually streaming to you, that it's working, that my internet is getting the stream out fine, the streaming software is working okay, I have the YouTube sort of control thing open with the chat and stuff like that. And there's a lot of information while also trying to do the detailed like list and actually, you know, present the discussion. So I probably could have interacted with chat maybe a little bit more, which is why for the second stream, which I roughly haven't properly locked it in yet, but I will over the next few days, planned for this upcoming Saturday at the same time. Instead of doing the Earthbender list and the Firebender list, what we're going to do is we're actually just going to do the Earthbender list, and then as a sort of secondary topic, I'll also be having a bit more of a discussion about my two episode ranking lists that I did as two of my bigger recent Avatar videos. So my top 61 Avatar episodes and my top 52 Korra episodes, plus the rankings I did for the comics and stuff like that. So we'll just have a general discussion about that specific episodes. I think that'll be a much sort of like relaxed, chill way to sort of end the stream once we're done with the Earthbender list, because it was quite an intense experience, just going straight from one list into the next, and it just being like 2 straight hours of discussion. So look out for that coming up on Saturday. But yeah, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this potential news. Another tease from Jeremy Zuckerman about the soundtrack. Now, with Avatar Studios in mind, is this effectively confirmation that it is going to happen? The soundtrack release is finally going to happen. What way do you think it's going to happen? I think at this point it's a matter of when, not if, but let me know. That has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.